Welcome, everybody. We're looking forward to this next 2 hours together. My name is Lynn Feehan, and I'm the moderator facilitator for this workshop. I want to start, of course, with a land acknowledgement. So I'm coming to you from Vancouver, and this is the ancestral and traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, which includes the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I'm always pleased and happy to be from this part of the world. Every time I travel and come back, I just realize how blessed we are to have the opportunity to live, work, and play here. So please feel free to enter where you're coming from, your land acknowledgement in the chat. I do want to start with just a bit of an introduction so we know who's who in the Zoom room with us today. So this has been this workshop is by invitation and registration only. And this was intentional because this workshop is intended for people who are applicants for the 2022 Health Professional Investigator Award or a designated alternate from their team, as well as research and grants facilitators from the different host organizations that are supporting the HPI awards applicants. And so a number of the participants in this workshop are these people, and the intention for that is for us to help you as applicants and research grants facilitators to understand a little bit more after the end of 2 hours today of what do we mean by patient, public, and community partner engagement in health research. We have a number of people joining us today to help us with this workshop and help you to work through this workshop together. We have representatives from all of the regional centers from the BC Support Unit, and I'll explain our structure a little bit more. But that includes people from Fraser, Interior Island, Northern, and also Vancouver. We also have our IT supports, and thank goodness we had them on board today because we had some huge glitches. So we have Belinda Bahar and also Emily helping us out. And then we have, and we'll be joining with, we are going to have some panelists today in our meeting, and they're joining us. So they'll be popping in and out. And then also, as all things patient, public, and community partner engaged, we have a number of patient partners who will be supporting us today. So I'm just going to invite you, if you want, to put your name behind your name, if you want, in the chat box. Just kind of which one of these roles do you think you represent? Are you an HPI applicant? Are you a host institution representative, a BC support unit, a panelist, or a patient partner? Just so that when we click on the participant list, we can see who's who. And we'll also see that when you're in your Zoom. So feel free to do that. I just want to briefly introduce what we're going to be doing over the next 2 hours, and we may go a couple minutes over just because we started a bit late, but we do intend to kind of stick to time. And so the first 20 minutes after we get through this brief introduction, we're going to do a bit of a high level overview of sort of the key features of what do we mean by patient, public, and community partner engagement and research. And myself, Larry, and Christy will be presenting that. Then we're really pleased to have a 30-minute panel in which we have a clinician scientist, a patient engagement coordinator, and 2 patient partners who we're going to enter into just a panel discussion exploring some of the strengths and challenges of partner engagement in health research. We're going to give you a 10-minute bio break. And then when we come back, we're going to spend the second hour exploring different opportunities where patient and partner engagement can actually be played out. So some specific examples, working through the tool that you were sent as a registrant, the interactive roadmap tool, as a way to guide these discussions. And then we'll spend the last 15 minutes together reporting back what some of the discussions were in the breakout rooms and some Q&A. So we will be building in time for a Q&A in the panel session. And that in terms of the first 20 minutes, we're going to invite you to just put your questions in the chat, because we will be creating a frequently asked questions from these. We'll try and address some of them as we work through, but if we don't, we will certainly put together a Word document of all the questions, and then we will answer them and send them out to all the registrants as well, so that we don't miss some of the important questions that you may have. So with that being said, I think we can move on to the first part, and this is this kind of general high-level presentation that we're going to be doing. The whole workshop is about the why, when, where, and how to integrate patient and public and community partner engagement into your HPI award application and your research. That's kind of the intention of this workshop, is having you come in and leave with a better understanding of what that means and how you might be considering to do this. It's not a specific in your projects, but higher level. In your resources that you were sent and that are on the website, there's a much longer 40-minute video presentation that we invite you to go back to and review, that goes into a little bit more detail of some of these concepts that we'll be presenting with you today. But we're going to spend, some of these minutes just kind of touching on some of the key highlights that we think is important. But like, again, I will, when you get your follow-up email, we will send you the link to that longer video and invite you to watch that as well, and encourage your team members to also, so that they have a better understanding. So I'm going to start just by introducing myself, and then I'm going to invite Christy and Larry. So besides being the facilitator of this workshop, I am currently the knowledge translation lead at the BC support unit in our Vancouver office. I'm also a physiotherapist. I've had many years, over 40 years of working clinically within the health system in BC, and I'm also a clinician scientist. So my research span both biomedical, clinical, as well as health services research, and my research focus has been on physical activity and bone health in people living with inflammatory arthritis. So, but I'm here today in the capacity of supporting this workshop, and as the knowledge translation lead, and also as a committee member on the HPI 2020 award. So Christy, can you give a brief introduction of who you are?
For sure. Thanks, Lynn. Hi, everyone. So I am Christy Coldwell. I am a patient partner in various capacities. And in that role, I bring a lifetime of lived experience, both with congenital heart disease and then later as a heart transplant recipient. I also work at the Transplant Research Foundation of BC as a senior advisor for research advocacy. And I'm really excited to be with you today to discuss and explore some of the possibilities around engagement. I've also helped Lynn with integrating this new patient, public, and community partner lens into this HPI award. So hand it over to Larry. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me here today. I'm Larry Mraz. I am the Research Services Lead at the BC Support Unit. And in that role, I do patient engagement work. I do consultations with patients and researchers in how they do their patient engagement planning and delivery. And my background is also health research. I did nutrition, oncology, and palliative care research. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. So I'm just going to be asking Larry and Christy questions, and I'm going to let them answer it. So they're going to be the experts here, and I'm going to be the moderator. So Larry, I want to start with this first slide, and can you just briefly explain to us, what did we mean? You're going to hear the term, we keep stumbling over patient-oriented research and the strategy for patient-oriented research. So can you just give us a high-level overview of what this is?
Absolutely. So the origin of patient-oriented research as a term comes from Canadian Institutes for Health Research. When about 10 years ago, they started their strategy for patient-oriented research, they landed on the term patient-oriented research to describe the way that patients, members of the public, people in general who have experience in the health system can be engaged in health research. So there are other jurisdictions in the world. In the UK, they call it patient involvement in research, or in the US, it's patient-centered research. So when we say the word patient-oriented research, this is just what CIHR landed on. And we don't want to be too focused on that term, because it's an umbrella term for a lot of other types of research where we engage non-researchers in the research process.
Great, thank you. So So just to give you a bit of background of what the BC Support Unit is. So as Larry mentioned, we are one of actually 12 similar units across Canada now that are funded through the Canadian Institute of Health Research through the Strategy for Patient-Oriented Research. And our mandate is to help health researchers in BC to build capacity for adopting what we're going to call a patient, public, and community partner engaged approach, but often we shorten that term to patient-oriented research, but it's pretty well all of the same. What I did mention is that in BC, we actually have a distributed model for how we provide our services and training and supports, where we have representatives within each health authority who are providing these training and supports and resources. And they are joining us today. They, hopefully they've put their BC Support Unit affiliation behind their names. And also they will be acting as facilitators in our room. And so part of the HPI award is no matter where you're funded from, no which health region, the supports and training that you'll be receiving will come from your health region and your health authority. So we also now, although we're funded by CAHR, we actually live within the Health Research BC, which is a new amalgamated organization. So we are now part of what used to be Michael Smith Foundation for Health Research. So as part of that transition for us, and our capacity to help build capacity for patient and public engagement in health research, we've been supporting the research competitions team to build in these two initiatives into the new Health Professional Investigator Award for 2022. And what we're hoping to do is that all funded health professional investigators actually move towards adopting this approach. And that's what we're here to do, is trying to first help you understand what that is in this workshop. In June 2nd, we're going to provide you a few more details of what that could look like and what are the patient and public reviewers going to be looking at. Because also part of this is there's going to be patient and public community partner reviews of the HPI proposals. So we'll walk you through that as well. The next workshop is to what are they going to be looking for and how might you integrate this into your proposal. And then secondly, and most importantly, is if you are being considered for patient final funding, if you've kind of reached the bar of potentially fundable, that we will work with you one-on-one to ensure that you understand this, that you can put some sort of plan together in your proposal, and that you understand what is maybe doable and possible for your project. And every proposal, every research application will be completely different. So we're going to help you decide what's going to work for you and how you might do this in your research. Okay, I'm not advancing. So Larry, can you tell us, this is our term, what do we mean by patient-oriented research?
Right, so there are some key features that define patient-oriented research as set out in the strategy for patient-oriented research. When we talk about engaging patients as partners, well, that's the basic underlying principle that we need to think about. But there are other issues and considerations as well. That is to focus on patient-identified priorities, research priorities, research questions, for example. Looking at patient-centered outcomes, this is very important. What outcomes are important to patients that you should be measuring in your research, for example? However, we also have to acknowledge that under the strategy for patient-oriented research, we included the 4 stakeholder groups shown in this slide. It's not just researchers and patient partners, but also care providers and those people in the health system who make decisions about which interventions are delivered. And of course, the underlying thing about this is that we really do want to make sure that knowledge is converted into action, that the knowledge generated in research is something that can be taken up in practice.
So thanks, Larry. So Christy, why are clinician scientists in the position to maybe adopt this strategy?
Thanks, Lynn. You're in a perfect position to drop this strategy because you are the ones who are actually working with those patients. So ultimately, it makes sense that you would integrate this type of an approach into your research because you have that direct link. Your interventions, your research, it's all having, it all has implications, and it has, a lot of different considerations for the populations and the patients that you're working with.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so, it is important that, people, you are working in the health system and you're also clinician scientists. It's really, you are in a situation to really try and work with this strategy and adopt this approach. So we are looking forward to working with you on this to help you to move in this direction. If you haven't moved in this direction already, to support you to consider it and figure out a way that you might be able to do this in your research. So Christy, I'm going to come back to Christy, I'm going to give this to you. So what does we keep saying there's many teams for patient and patient oriented, but there's certainly, maybe speak to this. What does this mean?
Yeah, for sure. So when we're talking about patient or patient oriented, I really want to highlight here that the term patient is one that is privileged, and that it's less about, say, that term specifically and about recognizing that it really is about that living or lived experience of those individuals with whom you are intending to have your research benefit. And as you can see from this word cloud here, that there's many other possible identifiers to describe these individuals, to describe these partners. It could be peer, community, public, caregiver, etc. It's about what makes the most sense for you, for your research team, of course, your partner, but also for your overall research. And ultimately, at the end of the day, to know that you will be supported, as Lynn mentioned previously, that you will be receiving support as you work to really integrate these partners in a meaningful and effective way into your HPI research.
Great, thank you. So the key term is it's you're working with people or individuals that are bringing the relevant, lived or living experience of the health topic or focus of the research. So that's really, who are you looking to partner with is your first question. It's who are you, what's your research focusing on? So Larry, can you speak to, we've used this term patient-oriented research, but is this like, not only is there different terms across the world, for this concept of patient specifically engagement, but are there other names and strategies that are very similar or that integrate meaningful partner engagement?
Absolutely, Lynn. As I said before, the term patient-oriented research is where we landed on, but there are many other ways that people can engage the stakeholders that are the people with lived experience in the research, and they're called lots of different names: practice-based research, community-based research, participatory action research. And of course, the approaches to research based on indigenous methods. So all these terms are very similar, and we want to think of them as all sort of under this umbrella of patient-oriented research.
Yeah, we're not getting hung up on the terminology of patient-oriented, but we are getting hung up on the concept of meaningful partner engagement in research. And typically, we're talking about non-academic members of the public, patients, or community that you're looking to engage. So thank you, Larry. I'm going to ask you the next question too. So what is patient and partner engagement not in health research?
So we get this question a lot because researchers will say, I talk to patients all the time. I engage with them in lots of different ways. So is this the same sort of thing as patient-oriented research? And they're very similar and can be part of patient-oriented research, but they're not the same. Doing patient-centered or patient outcomes research is not the same as patient-oriented research. Likewise, using PROMs or PREMs, patient-reported outcome measures or patient-reported experience measures, it's not the same as doing patient-oriented research. As a qualitative health researcher, I used to think that was kind of the same because I would be doing interviews with patients. But in each of those situations, you're collecting data from the patients. And this isn't the same as patient-oriented research because in POR, you're doing research with them and by them. So if you're collecting data from a person, from a patient, then that's not patient-oriented research. It's when that partner is helping you make decisions, then it's patient-oriented research.
Yeah, and so I'm going to tell Larry that he's hung up on the term patient-oriented research, and we're going to try and move to patient, public, and partner engaged.
Say that. Sorry.
Patient, partner engaged research. So yeah, we do live in the poor world. So Christy, what does that mean from you? Like, how do you know whether you're a patient partner or a research participant?
So I look at it as, am I being asked for information from myself, whether it's in the form of a blood sample, or whether you're asking me to complete a questionnaire, or you're looking at my past medical records. So that's seeing me as more of a participant, where I'm not an active member of the team. I'm not contributing to the design or to elements of that research project, as opposed to being more of a partner, where I really am a true member of the team. And I'm using my insight and my experience to really help guide that. And that really speaks to this slide. And it's about how can you ensure that engagement of your patient, public, and community partners is meaningful, that it's not tokenistic, it's not merely checking the box. And for patient, public, and community partners, they want to be recognized and appreciated as true team members, valued and respected for their experiential knowledge, have a role in decision making, and also really have their feedback, their input, shape elements of that research that's being undertaken. So that's really important to keep in mind.
Great, thank you, Christy. So yeah, so I just want to emphasize that partner engagement is the intention of this HPI award, or your proposal is not to check the box that, yes, I have a patient partner that's going to be involved, but having you understand, what does that involvement mean? What does that engagement mean? And how do we help you to help work with your patient, community, and public partners to be true team members on your team? And that's what our role is to help you build that capacity. So Larry, when we talk about different levels of engagement, can you speak to the slide, and where does that sort of more meaningful collaborative engagement work in this? And how is it different from sort of the bottom of the ladder and the top of the ladder?
So this is an important concept that you'll hear when you're talking about patient or family or community member engagement in research. To think that there are different levels of involvement, and this is a model that is sort of summarizes a number of other models that you'll find out there around how do you meaningfully involve patients in this work or members of the public in this work. So if you see at the very top of the ladder is the leadership, where the patient might actually lead the research, and it down is inform, where you're just informing someone about the results of your study. So we are looking at how do we move up that ladder? So we're getting a higher level of meaningful involvement and engagement with the partners in the work. And that is, how are they helping you make decisions about your research? And what sort of level of decisions are those? So we're trying to move people up towards that sort of involved level.
Great, thank you. And so one of the things here is the bottom. So like, we're really aiming for this mid zone. And what we were saying, and one important thing is understanding that patient and public partner engagement doesn't come for free. Mm-hmm. There are associated expenses related to this. And this is a salary award. And so HPI applicants who take on this approach will be offered top-up funds. And that's top-up funds for salary to support, their patient engagement coordinator on their team to work, in liaison and work meaningfully with their patient partners. Also for funds to support things like appropriate compensation for your patient partners and some of the other expenses related to engagement. And so in addition to offering these top-up funds to ensure your success, we're also going to make sure that we're providing you the important training, resources, and ongoing supports to ensure that you're successful, because this is a time commitment, and it's also a commitment to do it well. And our commitment to you as the BC Support Unit and the Research Competitions Team in Health Research BC is to help you to be successful. And so that really is the intention here, that we really are trying to move this forward and to support you to do it. So we're going to move quickly here just because we did start a bit late and I want to make sure we do it. Christy, can you just speak a little bit to what do we mean? We've been talking about members on the research team, but there's other ways patient, public, community partners could be engaged in research. Can you speak to this briefly?
Yeah, definitely. So as Lynn said, we can bring that lived experience to a variety of opportunities in research. So we can serve on advisory councils, governance, where priorities are set, decisions are made, as well as be a patient public community reviewer, where those funding decisions are made, looking at those applications from that perspective. And those are, of course, just a couple of the possible options, but it gives you an idea that there really is a wide-ranging area that patient, public, and community partners can be engaged in research.
Great, thank you. So yeah, we are going to focus after the breakout room of where in the sort of the research cycle and the research process, what this could actually look like, and some of the opportunities. So we are going to get to some of these details a little bit after the break, but it is understanding that patient and public community partners can really engage in all aspects of your research. It's not just in a specific research project, but that's an important piece where they can contribute. So just as a brief wrap up here, Larry and Christy, can you speak to this concept that when we're talking about this is an approach, it's not a research method?
Absolutely, Lynn. So it's really important to remember that you can involve and engage with partners at any stage of your research, at any level of involvement, at any time. And you don't have to involve a partner at every stage, but any type of research can engage a community member in it in some way.
And I just like to add to that, Larry, that because I do think that there is a bit of a misconception sometimes that certain types of health research are better, suited or less appropriate for partner engagement. And that's not the case. That yes, engagement is going to look a little bit different depending on the type of research. So it's going to look different if it's bench research compared to that more qualitative or translational research. But that integrating that lived experience lens, that partner approach is still valuable and that there is still benefits to be had. So I would just encourage you to be open to the possibilities around what that engagement can encompass.
Great. So thank you. And just in brief wrap up here before we move to the panel, what advice can you give to the applicants?
I'll jump in because I think that it's really important that when you're starting patient engagement or engaging a community partner in your work, that you take it slow. You develop a relationship, you take the baby steps that you need to do to make sure that you and your partner are both ready to do this work together. So start small and build up from there. Christy?
And I would just add to that as well, that it's always better to start early, and that to know that even though you might be a little unsure or apprehensive or have some questions, that there's support available and that anybody, as I had previously mentioned, can do this type of, can add this type of an approach into their research. And I really encourage you to do so because it adds so much added value to your research. Lynn, do you have any final thoughts on that?
Great. No, other than I think this is our opportunity to move to our panel. I want to just say thank you very much to Christy and Larry. I think that was a really helpful overview of what do we mean by patient, public, and community partner engagement in research. And we're going to shift to a panel, and we are missing one of our panel members. So we're just going to invite at this point Teresa, Lisa, and Angela to open up their video, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we are currently missing Fidel, who's our clinician scientist.
There he is. I see him
there.
Fidel, glad to see you. So we're great. So Fidel, we're running at just 5 minutes late because we had some Zoom issues. So I'm hoping that we can. I know you're going on service right at 11, but we'll try and maybe stop just before 11 and let you leave, and then we'll go from there. So Christy, I'm going to let you go with the introduction to the panel.
Excellent. So it's my pleasure to introduce you our great group of panelists who will be speaking to their experiences and insights related to patient, public, and community partner engagement in health research. So on our panel, we have with us today Angela Ognemben, and I apologize if I said your name incorrectly. Angela is a research coordinator who has been working at Providence Healthcare Research Institute at the transplant with the transplant group for the last 8 years. And in this role, she supports multiple clinical trials involving both pre and post kidney transplant patients. And we also have with us Teresa Atkinson, who was diagnosed with kidney disease in the early 80s and has endured more time on dialysis than she has with a working kidney transplant, including a 17-year wait on dialysis before she received her third kidney transplant of the highly sensitized transplant registry. Teresa works at the Kidney Foundation of Canada, and she also, as a result of a lifetime of lived experience with chronic disease, is passionate about empowering others and building community. And our other patient partner is Lisa Ridgway. So Lisa Ridgway is both a patient partner and a lawyer. And after UBC law and 15 years of wearing a suit and heels, she became an advocate for community and patient partner engagement in health research, particularly around issues related to mental health. So Lisa co-leads a number of research projects, works at Interior Health, as well as BC Support Unit, and serves as a patient partner on the BC Mental Health and Substance Use Quality and Patient Safety Committee. And last but not least, we have Dr. Fidel Vila Rodriguez, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of British Columbia and a director of the Non-Invasive Neurostimulation Therapy Laboratory and Schizophrenia Program. He is also a Michael Smith Foundation for Health Research Scholar. So as a clinician scientist, he has a strong interest in conducting translational research that bridges the neurobiology of psychiatric disorders with the clinical application of this knowledge. So as you see, we have a really dynamic and diverse group of panelists with us today, and I'm going to pass it back over to Lynn to get the conversation started.
Great. Thank you very much, Christy. And thank you very much to all the panelists for agreeing to participate and share your valuable time. But most importantly, your lived and living experience of working in partnership in health research, because I think this is an important perspective. We can talk, about it, but it's always great to hear exactly what does this mean? What are the lessons learned? And so I'm going to start this conversation off just by we're just going to be throwing out some questions. We hope to leave some time for questions at the end. And I'm going to start first with you, Fidel, because you're the clinician scientist in this panel, this illustrious panel of working in partnership in health research. And I'm going to give you the challenge of giving that 1 minute elevator pitch where you're in the elevator with your neighbor or your one of your colleagues in the hospital, and I'm just going to ask you to share. Can you tell us what your research is about, and why did you actually want to or get engaged with patients as partners in your research?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an excellent question, and one that it's been evolving and kind of being more articulated over time as I've gone through this career path. But the research that we do is focused on using this array of different treatments called non-invasive neuromodulation treatment, which is a mouthful to say that we have a number of techniques that allow us to stimulate regions of the brain. And the brain is an electric organ. So leveraging that ability to stimulate it with different physics methods allows us to treat a range of different neuropsychiatric conditions. And so our research is directly kind of aligned, and what we want to do is come up with treatments with biomarkers of psychiatric conditions. And for me, there's no question. I mean, it's a given. Engaging with people that we look after is a necessary step, and I would do it all the time. And the kind of patient engagement and the community patient engagement came as a way of systematically approaching this. It was for me an opportunity to learn about how is this done in a more formal, intentional pursuit. And I had the great opportunity to get training from the BC Support Unit back 3 years ago and engage with more formally with a number of patient partners. And for me, it's been the last 3-4 years a journey in kind of articulating, developing, and being more systematic about this engagement that was always present anyways. Great.
Thank you, Fidel. So Angela, I'm going to have you put on Dr. James Land's hat here, who you're here representing is his team, who, as all things clinician scientist, had to withdraw from the panel, unfortunately, due to other commitments just recently. So Angela, can you tell us a little bit about what this research is about and why this team is adopting the strategy of working with patient partners?
Yes, for sure. So our project is looking at implementing a new Canadian willingness to cross program as a strategy to improve donor access for highly sensitized patients. This would change the criteria of who is eligible to receive a kidney transplant and will be done using an adaptive design. So one of the objectives of this project was to conduct qualitative interviews to assess how patients would feel about changing this policy and what would be their reaction if this new system was to be implemented. But before doing that, we needed to explain to the patient about the current practice, how the new system would change that, what is an adaptive design, the risks involved, and the benefits. So we had questions about what is the best way to articulate this difficult concept without leaving any important details or any information that would be crucial for the patient to make their decision, but at the same time, in a way that it's easy to understand for the patients. So we needed the patient partners' help explaining this terminology in a way that to explain this terminology, because not everyone may be familiar with terminology like highly sensitized patients or antibody or AMR, or what is an adaptive design. Also, we needed to translate some of the concept into a simplified version, engaging with a diverse group of patients and reviewing the survey questions.
Great. Thank you, Angela. So you can see two different projects, but really, you know, an intention and commitment to working in partnership with patient partners. So I'm going to pass the next question over to Christy.
Hi again, everyone. And forgive me if you heard a dog bark, trying to manage working from home with dogs. But I'd really love now to hear from Lisa and Teresa on how you got started with your involvement in health research. And maybe I'll throw it to Lisa first, and then Teresa, you could answer.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks very much, Christy. This is like a short elevator pitch. And on the ground floor, the reason I got involved in health research was because I wanted to see meaningful research done and meaningful research involving patients. And because I wanted to use my own lived experience to try to influence how researchers think of patient and patient engagement. So that's the ground floor stop. And the second reason I wanted to get involved in this sort of research was because I wanted to help others understand their own conditions. And it could lend my experience to the whole process. It might make a difference to patients who are hesitant to get involved in health research. And then finally, as the elevator opens, I'm taking this as a form of therapy because I want to know and fully understand my own medical condition. I had experienced depression, and I wanted to know what the current status of the research was around non-pharmacological interventions. So those were that was my elevator pitch.
Great. Thank you. Great elevator pitch.
Teresa.
Thanks, Lisa and Christy. So I've always been kind of at the forefront, being a long-term patient, helping physicians and clinicians understand what it's like to be living with kidney disease. And of course, when COVID hit, because I'm in the lovely Okanagan, the use of Zoom and creating teams on Zoom made it so much easier for me to participate in research projects. So it's really become a passion of mine, and probably one of the most satisfying things that I actually work with to help researchers understand what it's like to live with them, to use my skills to help, as Angela was saying, I'm not, sorry, the words are escaping me, but translate it to simpler language for patients and basically public generation instead of scientific terms has been probably one of my favorite things to do.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa and Teresa. I think you highlight some very important reasons on why engagement is so important, least of which, of course, is how valuable that lived experience can be to really enriching that research for both our partners as well as those clinician scientists and the overall health research. So thank you for that. Now I'd love to learn a little bit more about sort of your origins of these partnerships. And I will actually go to Lisa and Fidel and ask how you began starting to work together.
Shall I start, Fidel? Good
Yes,
morning,
please.
by the way. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I think it all started when we connected through Twitter. And I had heard of Fidel's work in general, and I knew Fidel's lab offered a treatment called repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, which had helped me in the past. And we clicked right away, and we wrote a grant together and were awarded a Health Research BC unit grant to study certain facets of RTMS. And now we've started a patient and public oriented research group and a patient advisory group as well. So we're quite well stuck in with the patient oriented stuff. How do you remember it, Fidel?
Yeah, the same way, Lisa. And I also recall, I'm not sure if it was the first time we meet in person, but Patients First conference, I believe just before the pandemic, fall 2019, I want to say. I recall that occasion. You were putting together a podcast, and yeah, like you're saying, through Twitter first, new technologies, but we felt that we're very attuned and clicked, and ever since it's only been getting more involved. And Lisa, you've brought to the lab that aspect of being fully embedded as a lab member, and that has made a tremendous impact and difference in other people in the lab, kind of making this aspect like very real, very tangible in how it's worked.
Thank you.
Great, thank you both. I think you show that there's a lot of creative ways that partnerships can originate and be initiated.
You bet.
Great. Teresa, your turn. How did you get started in this?
Well, I thought I had already said that we connected through Twitter.
Oh, no, Teresa, sorry.
Teresa, pardon me.
Sorry.
No worry. So I actually, of course, knew Dr. Land from being in the kidney community for so long, but he did a presentation on what he was proposing as a study at one of the events I attended. And I said at that time, if he was interested in having a patient partner, I'd be willing to help. And of course, 2 years later, sure enough, he contacts me and says, would you be a patient partner on the study? And then, of course, Angela joined the team and became a key part of our team, because she was really the communication between us and the study. Certainly, Dr. Land was a part of that, but if we needed something, Angela was our go-to person. Angela, I'll pass it to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I started, well, at the beginning, Dr. Lan invited me to join the willingness to cross group, initially to help with the administrative activities, such as ethics submissions, contracts. And then I stayed with the group and helped coordinating, organizing the meeting, and connecting with the patient partners and the team.
Great, thank you. So I think, one of the interesting parts of this panel is showing that this really is teamwork. It's, the research team in collaboration with patient or community partners as true full members of the team. So that's the key premise that we're really talking about, is that the intention here is for meaningful partner engagement, and is that they're really participating in shared decision making. That's kind of the focus. And then they're engaging in ways that ultimately shape or guide the direction of the research. And so it's part about, we're hearing this relation between you all, that knowing each other, you're getting to know each other, it's evolving as you're going forward. But the intention on both sides is to really, meaningfully participate. And an important role is someone like Angela on the team, who's there, who's dedicated and supporting this communication and relational. So keeping people connected and contacted. Very, very, very important role. And just as I might say, the piece around that is that's a key piece around why this salary award is dedicating some of this top-up funds to ensuring that the time there is dedicated time from members of your research team, someone on your research team who would be like Angela, who is the coordinator in supporting this meaningful partner engagement on an ongoing basis. So having said that, I'm just going to open this up to either Teresa and Lisa to answer this question too. I'm just thinking, we've talked about, you've touched on some of these ideas of where you've made a difference, but can you maybe highlight on where you think you've actually made a meaningful difference, change the direction maybe, or the focus of the research because of your engagement and partnership on the team? So go ahead, Lisa or Teresa, you can take that as you wish.
Go ahead, Teresa, please.
Thanks. So I think there's been a couple of examples that where I feel like I've really made an impact. And it goes a lot with sharing my story and making it, as Fidel says, very real to the researchers and or to the public, what the decisions are being made around. One of the examples I would give would be, I was on a research project where they wanted to change a system similar to what Angela was talking about, but it needed a public deliberation. And for them to understand the value and the weight of what that decision would mean, having me share my story was a part of that deliberation. And I think that was very impactful on how the outcome of the deliberation and the recommendations were, and certainly made an impact on where that research is going now. Over to you, Lisa.
Oh, thanks very much, Teresa. Well, one example for me, one example of influence would be working with grad students and postdocs in the lab to make sure that when papers are published, the papers reflect the patient and public experience. For instance, including infographics instead of graphs or just typing. Infographics really get the picture across. And so I've had a hand in getting some of those involved. And another one is just turning up at all lab meetings, to be there, to be the face of patients. Not that I represent patients, I'm just one patient, but just being there makes the research more meaningful. And then, as I said before, we're starting up a patient advisory committee so that patients can get involved and help shape lab policy and share their experiences with treatment in order to best serve other patients. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Christy.
I was just going to agree. Thank you so much, Lisa and Teresa, for sharing your experiences. I think it really highlights that value add that comes from integrating those living perspectives. So thank you for that. Now, similar question to you, Angela and Fidel, around from your perspective, I'd really love to hear how you feel that partner engagement has had a meaningful impact on your research, and whether it has perhaps shifted the focus or resulted in slightly different elements that you wouldn't otherwise have occurred if you hadn't done this engagement. So maybe I'll first hand it to you, Angela, and then we'll go to Fidel.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Yeah, so what we were initially hoping to achieve with the help of the patient partner was to be able to make the protocol easy for the patient to understand, but also to make it interesting and exciting for the patients. So what the patient partner actually did, they not only do that, but they actually developed new material and engage with the patient even more. So what they did is they develop a video presentation where they included their own experiences. So the patient could have the study explained by someone they could relate to. They took care of all the aspects of this, including contacting the videographer, the translator, arranging quotation, so on, everything. So another thing is that at the beginning, we weren't sure if we were going to reach our enrollment target. So we also discussed potential different ways to reach other patients if not enough patients would agree to participate. But at the end, we didn't need to do that because we received such a great response from the patients. And we believe that the patient partner contribution played a key role on this.
Great, thanks, Angela. Fidel, on to you.
I would say that there's been concrete kind of outcomes that are tangible and easy to point out. But I like, and I'll put a couple of examples. Lisa and I co-leading a submission of a grant successful, then the execution of the trial and everything that comes with it. Lisa's been a co-author on a manuscript that focuses on side effects. So those are kind of the tangible things that kind of people can see. All right, this is something that I, you know, it has a body. Now, Lisa being a team member kind of embeds everything we do in that. So the infographics that she's mentioned, now we do that routinely in every single one of our ethics submissions. We have the regular kind of 10-page consent form and information with all the details that are necessary and should be there, but we also have a visual aid. It's a transformation of that information in a flow that it's visual, that we hope does help people understand and get a clear picture of what the study entails. So we do that because again, we've got into a habit, and Lisa is there, and I think her being integrated in the team has all those outcomes that might be less concrete, to put it that way, but they happen every day. So yeah, I would distinguish those two ways in how things have changed. And one last one is related to the patient advisory committee. We submitted a nomination to the Health Technology Assessment Committee in British Columbia to assess transcranial magnetic stimulation to be provided in the public health system. And the HTAC made a favorable recommendation this last January. It turns out that that's not the end of the road. And to make this happen, we require an ongoing kind of lobbying. Having Lisa part of the team member, for me, was a constant reminder not to give up. When it was quite frustrating to learn that the government seemed to be ready to sit on that recommendation and do nothing. And I honestly, I thought, all right, we've got so much stuff going in the lab. I should focus on this, and you know, someone else will take care of that. Lisa was a reminder. No, I need to keep up on this. So that was a very tangible thing for me, not to give up on that.
Great, thank you. So you can see that you know, there's just so many different ways that patient and public community partners can engage, you know, as team members, as participants, and it's an evolving piece, and that there's obviously some mutual benefits, that this is a win-win situation, and that you know, it's time well spent, and it's a commitment that has a meaningful difference. It really does shape the way that the teams work together, you know, the research is being conducted, and that there's a drive and focus and a given focus. So it really does, and there's a lot too, you know, that passion and drive behind why you do it, Fidel, and keeping in mind that much of the research, rarely are clinician scientists, researchers doing research for the sake of research. You know, we want the research to make a difference, to have impact, and specifically for the patients or public community partners that are the focus of your research. So that's really, really important piece. So so that's thank you to that. I'm just wondering do we have any questions? Does anyone from the group have any questions? One or two questions that we can maybe address to the panel? You can put your hand up. If not, feel free to put them in the chat. Like I say, we will certainly put this chat and answer these questions to the group. So maybe with that being said, because I know Fidel has to run off to go do his clinical work, I just do want to say thank you very much to these panel members. I think you've highlighted so much about what could this look like, that you know, it starts small. it evolves, and it evolves into some amazing things, and that it's just both sides being open to this as a relationship, teamwork, a partnership that you really want to build and work on together. So thank you very much. You are very, very inspirational for us in the world of patient-oriented research and engagement in research. So thank you again for your time. Okay, so I don't see any specific questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say that it is time for a break. We are going to take I do see a hands up, Yvette, an applicant. I have one quick question. Yvette, go ahead.
I'm not sure if this will get covered later, but thank you so much, by the way, for this session. It's been fantastic. I just I really liked what Lisa said when she said, I represent one patient. And obviously I'm a cancer specialist. I do a lot of patient, engagement and partnership work in my research. And I find that obviously most patient partners that I've worked with are highly motivated, articulate, and it kind of naturally attracts people like yourselves to do this work. And I guess one of the challenges is how we get sort of better diverse representation in patient involvement. And I wondered if you had thoughts about how to achieve that in research across the board.
So Christy, can I punt that one to you? Because I think you have a...
Sure, I thought I was going to a panelist, but for sure. So yes, I think that is a really important point to remember. And for most of us, when we serve as partners on these projects, we're bringing our voice, and that needs to be recognized, that we can't speak to all patient, public, or community partners, nor is that the intention. It's just to help enrich that project. But that diversity really is a key element that needs to be recognized. And so sometimes you need to get a little bit creative. You need to think outside the box. You need to go access different sorts of avenues and streams for reaching those people. And I know there's a lot of different opportunities or ways that you can go about doing that. I won't get into maybe some of those specifics, but such things as, looking at even really utilizing some of your existing patient partners to touch base with some of their connections and their networks. That's one way that you can really help sort of expand and reach patient, public, and community partners that you wouldn't otherwise connect with. So, I mean, there's other opportunities that we can touch on a little bit later, perhaps in our breakout rooms around how that can be done, but hopefully that touched a little bit on that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I think that can be part of the conversation this afternoon in the breakout room for sure. So I am going to push us along. It is 11 o'clock. We did say a 10-minute break. But I think the discussion in the breakout room is going to be helpful. So I am going to invite you all to just take a quick 5-minute break. Come back at 11:05. I'll just give a brief introduction to the breakout rooms, and then we will move into the breakout rooms at 11:10. So take this time to shut your videos off, your audio off, stand up, take a break, take a stretch, get some fresh air, grab a cup of tea, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, so it is now 11:05, and in the interest of staying on time, I am going to start. I hope you guys got a chance for a little bit of a break and a breather here. Before we go into the breakout rooms, we are going to go into 3 separate breakout rooms. And in the breakout rooms, we are going to have 1 facilitator and 2 patient partners. And then we've assigned the various registrants into the different breakout rooms, mostly randomly. So that the breakout room is an opportunity to have just a little bit more of a guided discussion with some of our patient partners that have joined us about some of these opportunities of where and how you could actually engage with a patient partner in your research. And so in the discussion room, we're going to use this tool, the interactive tool that we've created. It's on our website, and you were sent this link as well when you registered or when we were sent the Zoom information. So it is an interactive tool that we developed in partnership with patient partners. And actually Tony is part of the group that helped us develop this. And so he's joining us. And it's really the intention is to really help people think about where are some of these different opportunities. I'm going to just introduce to you what this might look like, and then just what is this tool about and why is it there? And then the the facilitators will take it from there and walk you through some of the opportunities in this website. So as I said, this is an interactive tool. If you go to the website, it asks you, it just tells you what the roadmap is about and why we developed it. You click on the tool and it takes you to this animated feature here that, as you can see, it's a map of a country with various roads on it and various stops on the way. And the intention of that is the case is this is really to indicate that this is sort of a potential roadmap or journey of typical of things that happen in a research cycle. Over in the left-hand side of this map are a number of stops of things that happen in the research world before you actually write your proposal and submit for funding. So it's about identifying the priorities, putting together a plan, writing a proposal. That's kind of on this side of things. That's stuff that happens before you submit for funding, which is the stage you're at right now, is writing this proposal and trying to submit it for this funding. The next step is the funding decision is made or isn't made. And so if it's not made, then you're kind of back to the drawing board and starting all over again. This is a reality in the world that we all live in the academics. However, if you are funded, then it's the time to get started in the research. And so we know that there's various stops along the way with this. And each one of these stops, if we click on it, oh, it's going to tell us where to get started, sorry. If you click on it, for example, here, each one of these stops has a postcard that really identifies what is the stage or stop about, what's happening in this at this stop or this type of phase of the research. And then here, there's very specific examples that patient and community and partners have said, these are the kinds of things that they've helped and supported at these different stages and different phases. So it's kind of a guide to walk through what are some of the opportunities at all these different stages and phases. And you're going to work through this in the breakout rooms. The facilitators and the patient partners are going to help you work through 2 or 3 or maybe 4 of these stops just to consider some of the diversity and options. So that's what this tool is about. So thank you. So that's what this roadmap is about. And I hope you've had an opportunity to examine it. If you don't worry about it. You have the link, and it's certainly a resource that we would encourage you to go back to kind of explore and to think about once you're evaluating and putting together some of your opportunities for where you can work with your partners on your team, that this might help guide some of your thoughts in that area. So this is the introduction to the roadmap. And that's all I'm going to do at this point. And I'm just going to ask Belinda to create the breakout rooms. We're going to give everyone 25 minutes in these rooms, and the facilitators have a flow guide. So we'll see you back here in 25 minutes.
Okay, opening up the rooms right now.
So thanks, everyone. Yeah, so again, it's wonderful discussion, really great overview. Just again, a reminder, you do have Bahar's email from registration and that. So if you think of questions, even if you haven't put them in the chat box, feel free to write your questions to her and we'll collate them and collect them. So this is the intention, is to help you and others like you that are applying for this to really understand what this means. So in wrap up, I just want to remind you that this was the first of 2 similar sessions we're going to be offering. So if you have not already done so, please register for the second workshop that we're offering in a series. It's happening same time, 10 to noon but 2 weeks from now. And in this one, we're going to focus very specifically on what are patient, public, and community reviewers going to be reviewing in your proposal. So we're going to walk about what they're going to be asked. This is not a scientific review. The reviewers are going to be reviewing your proposals after you've been reviewed through your peer review. If you've hit the mark as, potentially fundable, those are the proposals that are going to be reviewed by patient and public partners. And we're going to help you understand what they're going to be looking for. So you can build that into your proposal as well. And then we're also going to walk through, in your application, here's some ideas of where you might integrate some of these ideas into your proposal, like Peter already mentioned. Probably something should be mentioned in the budget and, some of these other places. So there's some dedicated space. So we hope that it'll be a little bit more of a practical tips and tricks session. But we do encourage you to participate because I think it'll help you build this into your proposal in a way that will be helpful both for yourself and also for the public reviewers. So having said that, I think that brings us up to a wrap. I just want to again thank everyone for their participation, and particularly our patient partners who, as we've highlighted over and over and over again, they play such an essential role. And quite honestly, without their involvement today, I think the enrichment and the perspectives and the value that they bring to these discussions is just so obvious when we partner with patient partners. And so we've had some incredible patient partners joining us. And again, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate that. Larry and Christy, of course, your support is always great. But also important is we just want to again acknowledge and reiterate that the BC Support Unit is a distributed model. We have people from all of the regional centers here. So if your application is within Vancouver, then you might be receiving your primary supports from us. But if your research is expanding across all these different health authorities, we can make sure that you're working in partnership and supported by the people that are most important for you to be working with to support your partner engagement as you go forward with your HPI award. So our goal is that everyone that is applying for this award tries to adopt this approach, and that all of those that are funded do take on this opportunity to work with patient and public and community partners, and that we will, as the BC Support Unit and the research competitions team at Michael Smith, just reassure you that we're here to support you to do this. We want you to be successful. This is the intention, is to be successful in this approach and this Health Professional Investigator Award. So that's the final spiel. Again, just thank you, everybody. And Belinda, I think you can stop the recording, and because it's right at noon, and we can move on for your rest of your day. So again, thank you very much, everybody.